Public Schools Board of Education meeting. MAPS respects the role that our elected board members serve and the function of our board meetings. Board members and administrators are committed to working collaboratively to provide our students with the highest levels of achievement. This meeting is a formal event and professional conduct is the expectation for all in attendance. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Murray. This month we do not currently have any recognition, so we're going to have public comments to the board. I'd like to call up to the microphone of this first table Keith and Sarah Clevenow, talking about the hockey co-op.
Good afternoon. So I'm Sarah. We have a currently, I guess the topic is board is just awesome east. It seems to be a lot of lack of information for the program and people in the program. It seems one-sided. A lot of us have not really heard about this discussion, and there was no discussion, which is things like that in the future. I know the topic is, will we have enough players to support a team? Next year, I believe we have enough. It's the future of the program. I guess our part is, I guess we don't care if that co-op continues or stays with Merrill only, but it's the future of the program. Once we get past next year, and there's not enough kids due to just enrollment, injury, grades, and we lose the program, I don't ever feel the board and the school district will ever bring funding back to support a Merrill team at all. And then the other thing is, has anyone addressed or informed Wausau East of this situation? Because they're pretty much be left out to dry also, because they will not be able to co-op or play with Wausau West due to WIA sanctions. So I guess our voice is, I don't know if all the members of the, say, hockey board and the youth level has been informed. It seems one side has been pushing this, right or wrong. I don't know what's right, I don't know what's wrong, but I guess that's just our opinion of it. Do you have any?
I would echo that. I mean, I truly didn't know how far this was going and all of the meetings and stuff that have been happening, and apparently there's a petition that's been out there. Didn't know about that. I did watch the last meeting, and I've talked with Chris Hahn, I've talked with Kevin Blake, and again, like, our son is not really going to be impacted by this. So their age group, like, they've had really good group of kids. There's a lot of them that play. They do very well. They're very good athletes. I hate that they have to play against, Smash and West and lose, and it sucks. But I don't see it being any different whether we are in a co-op or not. I don't see that changing, I think. And I think the idea of going independent like that concerns me too. Didn't realize that was what would happen, like that we wouldn't just be accepted into a GNC. I think that's maybe what the kids think. That does not sound like that's what would happen, at least for next year, and that would impact my son. So that's our concern.
I appreciate your comments. I believe you both know this is a public comment section, so it's not a dialogue, it's not a question answer. That is on the agenda this evening. I think we'll provide as many answers to that, not only for anyone here and listening, but for all board members who perhaps weren't at the last committee meeting, or any updates that we have in the district since then. And a lot of information comes out then, so I really don't want to be rude and sound like I'm not answering anything I may
Right.
know, but in a few minutes, we'll have some more information to share, so everyone is close to on the same page as we can to make a decision. There's an early February date, to
Right.
go or no go into a cooperative, so that is a real deadline, so.
I just feel there's a lot of unknowns either which way we go, but it doesn't seem like everyone's informed of the facts. Everyone thinks we're going to go into the GNC. I think that's a fact that we are not going into the GNC. So.
All
right.
Always a chance, so we'll have that discussion here in a little while. Thank you both for being here this evening and sharing your thoughts to the board. Tammy, any other sheets for public comment? I do not have any others either. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Parker and Eric for our Student Board of Education representative report. What's going on at the high school?
Well, it's been a busy few weeks, especially with, well, an exciting few weeks with our last inclement weather day. I know a lot of people really are yesterday, the ASME test for the armed services completion test, which is an entrance exam to the military, was given. About 16 students took it, so that's pretty exciting for them, whatever their results are. The board has been holding career spotlights during flex that are currently focused on medical careers. So far, there's been pharmacy, medevac, and physical therapy, with one nursing being this Friday. I was able to attend the pharmacy one, which was actually really exciting for me, because I am going into pharmacy in the future. And we got to hear from a current student at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, who is in the pharmacy program right now, and she told us about what the program is like for her and different career options in the future. So that was really exciting. Local scholarships are due this Monday, and seniors are working hard to get those turned in. Mrs. Raditz and Mrs. Holt have been holding scholarship work times during flex to help those questions, and I do think that that has helped a lot working on scholarships.
The theater Jays will be auditioning for their spring musical, which is Honk, and our athletic teams have been gaining momentum as we approach the postseason, and that's exciting to see. Wrestling held senior night in the auditorium, and I was actually on the stage, and that happened for the first time ever, and they won their duel against Lakeland pretty decisively. The students have been working on ACT prep during their advisory period. On Monday, they received a packet on skills and strategies for taking the math portion of the test, and juniors are winning the competition that was set up between grades, and I feel like none of us are really surprised.
Just because seniors aren't in the competition.
That's excellent. You're learning, you watch my back, we're all arguing, but that's just, you do you. A lot of good information, though. Excited to see the reports. See the night in the auditorium, the rest of them. Members have any questions for Parker or Eric? I know it's a tough act to follow, but I'm gonna ask Mark Paul to come up and give an introduction to our fiscal year 25 annual financial audit.
Yeah, we have Stuart Randall here from CLA, Clifton, Larson, and Allen. It's been our audit firm for a number of years.
Long time.
Yeah, so he's going to go over the 24-25 summary of the audit. You had all the information, I believe, attached to the agenda, and then he'll give a brief overview, and then if there's any questions, fire away.
Yeah. And I will apologize to everyone behind me. Usually, your board meetings are surprisingly well attended compared to some other districts. So apologies, because financial numbers aren't always the most interesting thing to listen to the general public. But as Mark indicated, we completed the annual audit of the district. The high-level marks, and as always, please interrupt me with questions at any time throughout my rambles here. But you received an unqualified opinion on your financial statements, which is the best opinion. That's a clean opinion, saying that the financial statements accurately reflect the financial position of the district as of and for the year ended June 30th, 2025. So with that being said, that's a commendation to the school district. I believe I've said that every year, or John Troutman, the principal on engagement, has been saying that for many a years now, and the fact that you're able to continue to do that year in, year out is a good sign of the financial department, the business office within the district, and management overall. So, good job to the district. Now, a little bit of highlights on things that occurred during 2024, the 24-25 school year, and looking into the next year. So, one thing that happened is there was a new accounting standard that went into effect for this financial reporting period. Relatively minor effect just in terms of how the accumulated sick leave, vacation, time off benefits are reported within here and valued. It did not change any of your policies or what any people get, just in terms of the valuation of the liability. Previously, it was focused solely on the amounts that were going to be paid out upon separation from the district. We now had to include a factor of considering time off that was going to be used as time off, instead of just focusing on the time off. Not a significant change, but whenever there is one of these presentation calculation changes, we like to emphasize it just in case there is the person that is looking at the 24 financials to the 25 and seeing something slightly different. Well, that's the primary difference. Looking at something else that 24-25 is going to have the last year of, it's your ESSER grant expenditures, which is the primary COVID funding that you received. You had about $1 million worth of expenditures associated with that and the corresponding recognition of that revenue. Looking at 25-26, that won't be here anymore because that grant you had to spend by the end of, I think it was September 2025 or whatever. Yeah. Years are confusing with the school years. But that will be the last year that this was reflected within these financial statements. Overall, with the audit process, this was in no way fault of you or the state. The federal government did cause a little bit of chaos in terms of they released the single audit, the federal grant compliance audit. How they want us to do that? Late. That came out in November, and usually it comes out in May. And so if you talk to a lot of school districts, they might not have that grant single audit done quite yet. We were able to issue yours at the same time. So that, we don't have to come back and do a second presentation. On the topic of the single audit, we did have one internal control deficiency. So the single audit, that's what we refer to as the internal control and compliance audit related to your federal and state grants. We, every year, select a sample of your grants, and then we test the internal controls. Essentially, how do you ensure that you remain in compliance with the grant, and then the compliance aspects themselves. This year, one of the grants we tested was your Head Start program. And we noted an internal control deficiency with the annual report that you submit to the federal government. We didn't note any problems with the report, just the internal procedures surrounding the submittance, in that essentially the business manager here, is that your official title? Or is it
Director of Finance.
Director of Finance. Every district is slightly different. Essentially, he prepared the report, he submitted the report. That is not an adequate internal control. Internal controls is the process by which errors are prevented or detected. And so by implementing a secondary review and approval, that finding can easily be taken away next year. And so I believe what the district is planning on doing is having the director of the Head Start program review that report prior to submission, just to make sure that there aren't any typos, everything is filled out correctly. That's a requirement of all federal grant programs, that there is that separate review and procedures. It's, relatively minor finding. It's something that we see in most every, and not most every district, but it's a common internal control finding related to the single audit. Speaking of Mark here, I know that the district is, and I believe it's an agenda item later, is, looking to fill that position. Just a general comment on whenever we see transitions within finance departments or people in financial roles, it's always important to look into the documentation of what that position does, and not just what they do, but why they do it, to make sure there's that continuity of operations. So many times people focus just on the day-to-day, this is what needs to happen, without necessarily considering the whys, so that, you know, your operations do change over time. So without understanding the history of why something has been done, there's not necessarily that understanding of how that needs to morph to fit the new reality. And so that is our, you know, informal recommendation over the next 5 months of, you know, or however many more months if this continues on past 6:30, you know, to just continue to assess and make sure that this transition, which has happened a couple times in the last 5 or 6 years at the district, you know, you continue to have this unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which is your ultimate goal. So I talked really fast there for a little bit. I didn't actually talk about any financial numbers. I can if there are any interests or just any questions in general.
I
Okay.
don't see any questions on that, anything that you wanted to point out, Mark, otherwise that was a solid presentation. There is
You hit the
a,
highlights.
yeah, there is a recommended motion. Paul?
I move to approve the 2024-2025 audit as presented.
Motion by Paul, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. Any discussions or questions on this motion or topic? Any discussion or questions on this motion or topic? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have administrative reports. I'll turn that over to Mr. Murray to highlight and go through all of our administrative reports, please.
Thank you. Item E under administrative reports is the Reminder School for Young Learners monthly data report. I don't know if which is still the same, so he's not here, but his monthly report is pretty consistent as far as enrollment numbers, some health screening information, attendance and P-card statements. So if there's any questions that you have, I may be able to answer those. I can certainly forward those on to Mr. Martinovich. Item B is the food service participation report presented by Laura Krause. And she provides us monthly with our participation reports for the month of November and December. Any questions that we can answer those as well. Item C is the Director of Pupil Services Special Education Report, prepared by Amber Huliska, who's here this evening to answer any questions that should you have any. Her report includes the pancake breakfast with the NEST programs that took place at the Eagles Club on Sunday morning. Many of you were there. It was an awesome event, well attended. It was a nice fundraiser, and that was a very successful program. The NEST, if you don't know, is a program that it's kind of a food, clothing, personal items pantry at the buildings to help our students that have those needs. So it was a really good event. And she also has some information on projected numbers for special education for the 26-27 school year. Item D is the technology department report. Mr. Taylor is back here, back in the corner hiding this evening, but one of the top for us. His report includes some information on a backup server that was recently installed, some updates regarding some software and other servers. He always provides us information on help desk tickets for the district for the Department of December, so he can take care of any questions. Item E is the Director of Curriculum Instruction report. Talks about some, that report features some information about secondary science and reading, as well as some math leadership work that Amanda's been leading for the district. Amanda is out today, so she can be directed. And then, of course, at any time, if you have any questions, maybe come forward to Item F is the Director of Finance report. Mark has shared with the board budget assumptions moving forward. We continue to work on our budget deficit for next year. Process, as well as updates on revenues and expenses. Item E is job description updates. Heather's been working very hard, and Silver's been working very hard on job descriptions. There's a top summary sheet attached. We have had a subsequent discussion since our last committee meeting about how we will share those updates with our staff as they become updated, and so we have a strategy in place for that, and it's kind of in Item H is the Director of Human Resources report. Some information there about field print fingerprinting. If you don't know, we became a field print fingerprinting station in our maintenance office. It's an automatic or automated fingerprinting station that it's a service we provide. The reason we did that, if we haven't talked about it, is because we have a number of our staff, bus drivers, Head Start, a number of people that need to get fingerprinted. And so the current nearest fingerprint station, I think, is maybe Wausau soon to close, and now Rhinelander. So we had an opportunity to bring that in. And so we do have people from the outside schedule appointments, go over the maintenance thing. It's just been been a really nice add-on for our staff, so our people don't have to drive to Rhinelander or different places to get fingerprinted. And so that's been up and running now for about a month. She has some information there about a CISA 6 support staff compensation plan work that she's been working on. We will share that starting with HR Finance next month, but that's come together really well, and so that's a lot of information on that as well. Item I is the Director of Building and Grounds Transportation update. Nick Wazalek is here this evening. His report features some information on recent projects that have taken place in the district, and if there are any questions for Nick. Excuse me. Item J, Superintendent's report. Kevin and I and a number of other people just got back from the state convention last week, and for anybody that's had a chance to make it to that convention, it's time well spent. There's a lot of good information, a lot of great breakout sessions, kind of something for everybody all the time. So we kind of divided and conquered with our team and hit as many different sessions as we could, and so some of those things we'll start talking about at our central office meetings as well as our out meetings, and see how we can incorporate some different ideas into our operations. I don't know if you have anything to add, Kevin?
No, I think, during that I represented us as the delegate at the delegate assembly. It's normally well attended. Usually about 300 out of the 400 plus districts are there, and through that, like you said, there are different learning tracks while you're there. Anything from finance to curriculum to board leadership to buildings and grounds. So human resources, technology, as you can imagine, was pretty heavy on AI this year. And anything from the classroom to staff to behind the scenes. So a lot of good information. Thank you.
And I appreciate you coming. I recognize that's a big commitment for a board member to give up 4 days to your professional personal lives to go to the convention, so thanks for joining us. I also have some information, some updates on Board Policy 5136, which deals with personal communication devices. That's come out of the legislature that will be addressed by July 1st. We are working on there. There's not a whole lot of changes from what we are currently doing, but that'll be coming through policy probably in March. It's tabled for this month. And then a couple other things. We had a coffee with the superintendent yesterday. I think Auntie Ray is in town. We had a nice handful of people there. I thought we had really good discussions. A lot of good questions brought up from a wide variety of subjects, and it was a really good time. So I appreciate people that showed up for that. And then lastly, I want to recognize Bill Whited. Bill, could you stand or raise your hand? Bill is the new terminal manager for Cobus and Busing in town. And so Bill's been on the job, I should know, this feels like a month, might be 6 weeks. About 6 weeks. 6 weeks. And so Bill's a local. He has kids in our school district, so we're happy to have him. And in a very short time, he's made a big difference. You can feel the difference that you made there, Bill, so we appreciate that. And the communication's very good. Nick and I and Bill and Joe Cobison and meet regularly via Zooms. The transition to Cobison has been very, very smooth. It's been easy to work with him, so we appreciate that. And Bill wanted to come and just so that we could meet him. So welcome, Bill. We're happy to have you. I think that's all I got. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Shannon. Welcome, Bill. Nice to meet you. On our agenda next, we will go.
On the personal communication devices, there's a draft policy that's scheduled to be reviewed on Monday. And one of the things I noted, it said that the devices could be used, I remember, during passing between classes. I think it was between classes. And I just wanted to ask if that would be maybe reviewed for practicality, because if you have a device that is off and or not used in a classroom, the idea of like accessing it 8 times a day for 5 minutes just seems like it would be more disruptive than.
Yeah, so one of the things we're having a discussion, so actually it's tabled for Monday, we're moving it back to the March.
Okay.
So we want to have a discussion about what bell to bell means, because there's different ways we approach that in the district, so I want to engage the middle school and the high school in that. And then there are examples in that policy cited of what those devices are, including a smartwatch, which everybody in this room is wearing right now, you know, so we're gonna have some of those discussions of what those devices are. And so it's tabled for this month.
Practicality piece of.
Tricia and I had that very discussion in some form today, so.
Anything else for Shannon under this topic, or administration specific to the superintendent's report? We will move on to committee reports. First one would be Facilities Committee, attached with draft minutes from January 14th. Facilities Committee, myself as chair, and other members of the Facilities Committee are here for any board member questions. Any board members have questions for our Facilities Committee members? Questions for our Facilities Committee? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to the Finance Human Resources Committee, attached with the draft minutes from the January 14th committee meeting. John Smith is chair, and other members of the Finance Human Resources Committee are available for board member questions. Any board members have questions for our Finance Human Resources Committee? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to the CTP, or Curriculum Technology Pupil Services Committee. Attached were draft minutes from our January 14th meeting. Ron Liberty is chair, and other members of the CTP committee are available for board member questions. Any board members have questions for our CTP committee members this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on. Further on our agenda is unfinished business. We do have a tabled item that we will move to now. It's the Boys Hockey Co-op. It was tabled at the December 17th, 2025 board meeting for further review. I'll call Chris Hahn up to the table in case there's any board member questions or discussions. I know we've heard public comment in December and in January. Discussion also at the last couple committees, talking about what options are, financial responsibilities. John?
Yeah, based on the committee discussions, I'll motion to table indefinitely the approval of the hockey cooperative and direct administration to establish a WIA-approved varsity Merrill boys hockey ice hockey team.
I'll second.
We have a motion by John, we have a second by Ron. Any discussion, questions, or things you'd like to add, Chris, for the good of the order?
Again, I don't think getting out of the co-op is good for hockey in Merrill right now. I think ideally we should have that discussion again in 2 years. I'm really worried about that second year of the co-op. We're not going to have a JV team to develop our players. We're adding cost and player safety for 10 freshmen that are going to have to be on the ice. I mean, right now we have 4 hockey players that are ineligible to play hockey until February 16th at the very earliest. If that happens in 2 years, we're going to be in trouble. So,
Chris, can you share that you've had a discussion with GNC ADs and?
I have. So I had a GNC AD meeting today. I did convince them to fast track us into the GNC if that's the choice we're going to make to break our co-op. So we would be in the GNC next year.
Did you share that there are some developments as far as the Newman players are concerned?
Newman is going to co-op with Pacelli. Yep. Yeah. Instead, Wausau East is still may not have a hockey program next year.
Well, with that being said, they have known for a period of time.
No, but
This
two
isn't-
weeks, right, since the straw poll? I mean, for sure, like,
Right, I mean-
they've had 2 weeks. Didn't seem like this is the direction we were gonna go in December, I mean, to me, at least, but,
And prior to that, they were seeing if they could go with West at one point in
Yeah,
time.
then that is not an option
Right,
for
but I
them,
mean,
yes.
at one point, they did ask for, perhaps we even got this late. This wasn't on you to wait till December. We normally would have addressed this topic a little sooner, but East asked for a little bit of leniency to have a discussion with maybe the Wisconsin Valley and Wausau West. So
Correct.
we put this a couple months out just to let them have some discussion. So there was actually a chance before this all started that East was going to ask to not have a co-op. That does not solve, and just for discussion purposes, we do have a motion. We do need some clarification over time. If there, we left the boardroom last December, and I'll clarify this because it came out at committee. I felt that it was a net zero numbers game financially, and we have learned that while we don't all agree what the number will be, it will be more to host Blue Jay hockey. And we knew it would be somewhat more. We don't know how that will all be. That'll go back to yourself, some booster club work, some teamwork as to making some things happen, and, you know, we'll lean on the district finances to figure out what that looks like going forward. So there will be some work, but I did ask in December if that was cost neutral, and it really is not. I mean, we knew we were picking up some ice time for practicing games, and we knew we were saving on some transportation to get to Marathon Park. Knew we were picking up some coaching potential expenses, depending if it was two programs or not, but at the end of the day, it does look like it will have some sort of an impact to the budget. I think,
it
not saying
min-
substantial.
Bare bones minimum $16,000.
Somewhere in that $15,000 to $20,000 range, I think, is fair estimates, but it's pretty early. So there will be more discussion on that. I had asked that question in December, and I thought I should get that out there so everyone understands that as well. Any board members have additional question or discussion points for this motion or this topic?
May I say one more thing? Just if we do vote to table this, that would effectively dissolve the co-op because the applications are due February 1st at noon. So tabling it means no co-op, just so everybody's clear.
Yeah, the motion includes a directive.
Okay. Any additional discussion or questions on the motion or this topic? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously on a voice vote. Okay, we will get to Board of Education business next. We'll start with open enrollment spaces available on MAPS 2011 Wisconsin Act 114 discussion of 2015 Act 55 open enrollment for pupils with disabilities. There was a topic summary sheet provided by Amber Aluska. And there is a recommended motion from our CTP committee. Board member willing to make a motion on this agenda item this evening. Paul?
Move to approve the classroom capacity for open enrollment purposes to 99 students with disabilities based on space for the 2026-2027
Motion by Paul, do we have a second? Second by Brett. I don't think heard him properly the last motion. Pointed at the wrong person, so we'll get you there, Brett, sorry about that. We have any discussion or questions in regards to this topic or motion? Any discussion or questions in regards to this topic or motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is the Bierman Family Foundation donation for the Merrill High School Fieldhouse audio system. Attached was the topic summary sheet from Chris Hahn. due to the fact that the donation's over the $2,500 limit set in our policy 7230, the donation comes to the board separately for approval and not just a entry on consent agenda. We do have a recommended motion from Finance Human Resources Committee. Anyone willing to make that motion this evening? Mike?
Motion to approve the donation from the Urban Family Foundation in the amount of $66,880.28 for the MHS Fieldhouse audio system.
Motion by Mike, do we have a second? Second by Amber. Any questions or discussion on this motion or topic? Questions or discussion on this motion or topic? Hearing none, all those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. Any abstention? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is the Laura Luzier Lee and Eric Lee donation for negative student meal accounts. Attached was a donation form and cover memo from Mark Paul. Also due to the fact that the donation is over the $2,500 limit in our policy 7230. This comes to the board separately and with a recommended motion from our Finance HR Committee. Any board member willing to make a motion on this topic? Paul?
Move to approve the donation of funds from Laura Luzier Lee and Eric Lee, valued at $2,500 for helping students with negative meal account balances.
Motion by Paul, a second by Mike. Any discussion or questions in regards to this motion or agenda item? Questions or discussion on this topic? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Just like to thank the German Family Foundation as well as Laura Luzier Lee and Eric Lee for their donations. Community support is certainly a big deal when it comes to our district, and we're very thankful and grateful for our community support. So thank you to two wonderful examples of things going on there to support our Merrill Area Public School District. Next on our agenda is Neola's Volume 35, Number 1 Technical Corrections per our bylaw 0131.3. Superintendent Murray is authorized to review and make technical corrections to policies. A list is provided for us to look at. Anyone have any questions on that? Otherwise, this is just showing that some are being updated prior to our policy committee meeting coming up here shortly. Any discussion or questions on that overview or list of technical corrections? They were all pretty self-explanatory. You didn't have anything you wanted to highlight there, right? All right. Moving on to consent agenda. I guess I will ask first before I ask someone to read that. Does anyone want anything removed from consent agenda to be handled individually? Otherwise, I would ask if someone is willing to make a motion for our consent agenda. Ron?
Motion to approve consent agenda items A through D, which includes minutes of the December 17, 2025 meeting, claim vouchers and receipts totaling $3,382,926.18, the revised December claims vouchers and receipts totaling $3,381,097.47, donations totaling $14,196, and the attached personnel report contingent upon release of contracts for hiring and upon the satisfaction of appropriate liquidated damages for resignations if relevant.
A motion by Ron. Do we have a second? Second by Mike. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Jacqueline?
I'll abstain from the December 17th.
All right. Brett?
I'll abstain from the December
abstentions. Items for future meetings. This is on our agenda for board members to discuss any topics that they don't see or don't feel that have been heard at the board level or committee level. If there's anything, we do have a couple things on there. Why don't we start with that, Shannon? Is there anything you wanted to highlight on there? We do have some things that we're working on, but I wouldn't say maybe third one, do you have an answer, or is that coming out of
Yeah, I
policy
think it was you,
committee?
John, that put that on there, that non-consensual recording of teachers in a classroom policy review. That currently is in our policy. So it's 5136, and it was discussed today because that's the policy that's being revised. That language is not being revised. So currently, videotaping teachers or students in the classroom setting is prohibited and there's consequences. So I was just going to put that maybe straight down off that.
Thank you.
Anything new someone would like to add or add to future committee or board of a whole topics? If there is any items that do come up, feel free to contact the chairs of any of the committees or contact Shannon or myself, and we will make sure they're on the proper agenda. A reminder that tomorrow morning, like most Thursday mornings, Shannon and I will be on in this particular instance, talking about tonight's board meeting, Blue Jay 730 radio. Little different now that it's not Lonnie leading the way, so getting used to that, but it's a nice show to talk about what's going on in the district, specifically our meetings, so. Future meetings, our policy committee, as I mentioned, meets on Monday, February 2nd, 4:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. Head Start Policy Council meets on Tuesday, February 10th, 5:30 p.m. out of Pine River School for Young Learners. Our CTP, or Curriculum Technology Pupil Services Committee, meets on Wednesday, February 11th, 4:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. Followed by Finance Human Resources Committee on that Wednesday, February 11th, starting no sooner than 5 p.m. in the boardroom. Our next regularly scheduled board meeting is Wednesday, February 18th, 5:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. Guess at this time I would ask if any board member is willing to make the last motion tonight. Move to adjourn. Motion by Nubbs. Do we have a second? Second by Mike. All those in favor of adjourning at 6:13 p.m. signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay.